to tell us what he feels about his reign, what are the lessons to pick, what it is that we need to drop, and what it would mean for the African continent to probably try and continue with his legacy. Also, we'll be discussing matters politics of tribe. That should be later on. That is actually the first segment that we'll be having as we discuss the politics of tribe right here in the country, what is likely to happen after the BBI conversation, if at all we're going to go for a referendum or not. And later on, yes, we'll be having Matters Country Music Edition. Make sure that you keep it right here, wear your Gideon boots, your khaki, not really your khaki suit, so you don't say it is reggae, no, but sometimes you can actually pass. So if you have your Gideon boots, you have your cowboy cap, you're good to go, and we'll be enjoying this. So karibu sana, looking forward to an incredible day. Remember, as always, we have goodies for you. We do not forget to give you that question that speaks of course, the soap operas that we have here. So in the event that you are a fan, be on standby, because we'll be having 500 bob worth of voucher for you. Just simple. When you go to our SMS short code 22047, drop the answer of the question that we'll be asking, then you're good to go. You get 500 shillings worth of voucher. Not forgetting, Valentine's Cake House is here for us this morning. I mean, every other Friday, they make sure that you get a cake for your loved one, a cake for yourself. If there's someone who's celebrating their birthday and you'd love to celebrate them, then you can be rest assured we got you covered. So that cake budget is catered for. Make sure that you're on standby, and we'll get to give you that as we proceed. My name is Linda Alela. We start the broadcast right now. The program is Morning Cafe. As you can see, as always, we look at the papers, what has been captured, and as we get to the discussion, the People's Daily, or the People Daily, so to speak, here is what it is that has been detailed. Yes, Tanzania to swear in first woman president, a story captured on page 6 of this particular newspaper. So much played out. President Uhuru Kenyatta, in his capacity as, of course, the chairperson of the East African community, went out to send his condolences, or message of condolences, declaring that moment of mourning country, 7 days of mourning Tanzania's loss. And equally, he says that indeed he celebrates this. Equally, another president, that is Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, says Magufuli was a pragmatic leader who believed and worked for the economy empowerment of East Africa. And President Paul Kagame equally sending his message of condolence. And we are saddened by the loss of my brother and friend, President Magufuli. His contribution to his country and to our region will not be forgotten. My deepest condolences to his family and the people of Tanzania. Right Honorable Raila Odinga on the other side, to First Lady Mama Janet Magufuli. Our prayers are with you as a family. We thank you for the occasions you welcomed us at your home, and we stand with you at this hour of grief and sorrow in your family. And very many other leaders went out to send these messages. Indeed, we continue to say that may his soul rest in eternal peace. And that also is a story that is equally captured next, defiant to the end. But just how defiant is he? We'll be looking at the reign of Magufuli, what is done well, what is not done well, how can we get to borrow from what it is that he did as a renowned leader. So tribute announcement of Tanzanian leader's death ends 18 days of speculation over his health, with opposition leader claiming, or leaders are claiming, that president was being treated for COVID-19, a disease he had repeatedly dismissed, as captured on page 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 12, 13, 14, and 15. That's technically what we'll be talking about. I mean, everywhere and anywhere, you know, we're all talking about his death, something that has really treated us to that huge blow. Relief as the attorney releases about 13 billion CDF money. Lawmakers had declined to approve division of revenue bill to protest delays in disbursement, and it looks like their trick has worked. And so there goes the money. Well, let's wait to see whether there's going to be some level of accountability, and also the projects that probably these members of parliament will seek to do with the monies once they get into the accounts of course, their respective counties. Media grieve a death of ex-TV anchor Winnie Mukami. Indeed, COVID-19 has treated us to some bad moments this week. The media fraternity was once again hard hit following the death of journalist Winnie Mukami, who recently served as board member of Kenya Pipeline. And Thursday, the march at Nairobi Women's Hospital from COVID-19 complications. And she became household name in 2003 when she became an anchor at NTV when the station was launched. It's pretty much unfortunate to see this, but we say, well, our condolences to the family of Winnie. It is quite an unfortunate. This is also another one that we've just lost in a short span. I mean, it's quite a loss and a hit for us. Raila back in hospital for routine checkup. That is in regards to matters COVID-19. Last week, he declared that, yes, he was diagnosed with COVID-19. But then again, as they would say, he is in good shape. And shock and disbelief as region mourns leader. Like I said, this is a story that has been captured across almost all the papers and extensively for that matter, and proceeds all the way. We also do not forget to look at the by-elections of Machakos. We have our very own Joash Ansari, who's been on standby following up on this event and will be keeping us to speed as to what has played out. Reports coming from there is that Wiper Party leader's candidate, that is Madam Agnes Kavindu, has taken an early lead in regards to that. And so we'll be looking at all that and much, much more. So we drop what the papers detail because it's more or less of Magufuli and a bit of politics here in the country, and we pick the stories that have been prepared by my team. Tanzania President John Pombe Magufuli is dead. Magufuli died on Wednesday at Dar es Salaam hospital following heart complications. Announcing the death, Vice President Samia Suluhu said that the country will go into a 14-day mourning period. The Tanzanian flag is expected to be flown half-mast. But even as Vice President Suluhu is expected to take over the mantle, becoming the first woman president in East Africa, the last few days of President Magufuli was filled with confusion. Magufuli mysteriously disappearing from the public eye amid COVID-19 fears, as Musa Salah tells us.
In the dark night of Wednesday, Tanzanian Vice President Samia Suluhu took the stage, this time not to give a message of hope, but to announce the death of her boss, President Dr. John Pombe Magufuli.
Majira ya saa 12 jioni, tumempoteza kiongozi wetu shupavu, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, Mheshimiwa Dr. John Pombe Joseph Magufuli.
Magufuli was last seen in public on the 27th of February. His mysterious disappearance from the public eye became controversial and began what became a series of allegations that he had contracted the much-dreaded coronavirus disease. But according to Vice President Samia Suluhu, Magufuli succumbed to chronic atrial fibrillation, a heart condition that the president had for over 10 years.
Alilazwa tarehe 6 Machi mwaka huu katika taasisi ya moyo ya Jakaya Kikwete kwa tatizo la mfumo wa umeme. Tatizo la moyo la mfumo wa umeme ambalo kitaalamu linajulikana kama chronic atrial fibrillation, ambalo halikuwa nalo kwa zaidi ya miaka 10.
But opposition leader Tundu Lissu, who went into exile in Belgium when he survived an assassination attempt in September 2017, has rubbished the government's official cause of death, claiming that President Magufuli died on Wednesday last week. It is alleged that Magufuli was flown to Kenya after he had breathing difficulties and was later airlifted to India for further medical assistance.
My information tells me that the president actually died on Wednesday of last week. When I wrote that tweet, what I meant to say was I'm just waiting for the official announcement, because my sources were telling me the man was already dead.
Magufuli has on several occasions denied the existence of the virus, prohibiting precautionary measures against the virus, urging Tanzanians to use traditional remedies to treat the flu-like virus. Tanzania will now mourn Magufuli's death for the next 2 weeks, with President Kenyatta announcing a 7-day national mourning period in Kenya and the East African Community member states, in which the Kenyan and Tanzanian flags will fly at half-mast.
Nchi yetu itakuwa katika kipindi cha maombolezo kwa siku 14 na bendera zitapepea nusu mlingoti.
The Republic of Kenya will observe a 7-day period of national mourning, and also that is a symbol of our enduring respect for the fallen president, the flag of the East African community, and the flag of the Republic of Kenya shall be flown at half-mast.
However, Lissu claims that President Magufuli's death offers Tanzania an opportunity to reverse Magufuli's dictatorial leadership.
We Tanzanians have gone through hell these past 5 years. And as I said, I do not wish anyone dead, but seriously, the death of President Magufuli offers our country a badly needed break.
Vice President Samia Suluhu is expected to take over the mantle, making history as the first female president in East Africa.
And regional and global leaders took to the mainstream and social media to eulogize the departed Tanzanian President John Pombe Joseph Magufuli. A number of presidents eulogized Magufuli as a dedicated, hardworking leader who served his people of Tanzania well, setting the pace for other African leaders to emulate.
America's ambassador to Tanzania, Donald J. Wright, says that the U.S. stands with Tanzanians during these difficult times. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says his thoughts are with the family of Magufuli and the people of Tanzania. From Africa, Ethiopia Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Ali wrote on Twitter, and I quote, "My sincere condolences to the people and government of Tanzania on the passing of President John Pombe Magufuli. May he rest in peace." End of quote. South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa says that his country is united in grief with the government and people of Tanzania as they go through this difficult moment. Regionally, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni termed President Magufuli as a pragmatic leader who believed in and worked for the economic empowerment of East Africans. Rwanda's Paul Kagame says that Magufuli's contribution to his country and the region will not be forgotten, sending his condolences to his family and the people of Tanzania. Somalia's Mohamed Farmajo says on his behalf and that of the Somalian people, they convey condolences to the people of Tanzania for the loss of their president, saying they are with them at these sorrowful times. Back home, President Kenyatta, in his national address to the nation, where he announced 7 days of mourning Magufuli, said he has lost a friend, a colleague and a visionary ally whom he worked with closely, particularly on their commitment to forge lasting bonds between Kenya and Tanzania. Deputy President William Ruto eulogized Magufuli as a unique leader who came from humble beginnings, rising steadily in the ranks of public service through diligence, consistency, and commitment. Retired President Mwai Kibaki says, and I quote, "To his family, friends, Tanzania as a whole and East Africa at large, I convey my message of condolence and pray for the Almighty God's comfort as we all come to terms with this irremediable bereavement." End of quote. ODM leader Raila Odinga says it is with deep sadness that he learned of the passing of his friend, President John Magufuli. Odinga adds that he and Magufuli's family have been close friends for a long time in difficult and painful moments. Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka says President John Magufuli was an icon to the people of Tanzania and the region at large. He believed in hard work. ANC boss Musalia Mudavadi eulogized Magufuli, saying that may the country's constitution guide them through a smooth transition as they celebrate his legacy, anchored on the war against corruption and strengthening of the economy.
He wanted efficiency in the public service. He wanted a public service that works for the people of Tanzania, and he was very pragmatic. He was somebody who would come out of his office and go out to the field to make sure that he's following up on issues that touch on the ordinary Tanzanian.
Others who eulogized him include Embu Governor and COG Chair Martin Wambura, Governor Ali Hassan Joho of Mombasa, and Kisumu's Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, among other leaders across the country. For TV 47, I'm Mike Kagwongo.
Well, the late John Pombe Magufuli will be remembered for his firm stand against social ills such as corruption and how he saved the taxpayers' money by cutting off frequent international trips by government officials. Magufuli also made a mark in developments he spearheaded in Tanzania during his tenure as the president. However, at some point, there was a friction brought about by his style of leadership and neighboring countries.
They say the way to the heart is through the stomach. This month of love, Throwdown shares with you those amazing food ideas for that candlelit dinner and picnic date. Learn those dining etiquette and avoid those embarrassing moments every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. What's the perfect way to kickstart your day in the morning? Well, apart from having a healthy breakfast, the Morning Cafe is all you need. We will inform you on what's happening on the roads, dive deeper into the newspapers, alongside heated political debates.
What do you have to fight in the order?
Yes.
Order.
Did you know that your greatest wealth is health?
Then we start eating right, and that's what I do in my clinic.
With some good Friday vibes. The Morning Cafe with Linda Alela, Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. only on TV 47. On the grind, we bring you different entrepreneurs who give the story of their businesses with love and passion.
I'm a musician forever. This is something that is inborn.
It excites me. It's always excited me.
Because when you show love to your business, it will show love to you.
The most rewarding bit of being a photographer is seeing a bride able to see her images of emotion in her and just relive the moment once again.
Get to hear these stories and so much more every Monday at 7:30 p.m. on Coffee with Movie. You great testimonies from amazing personalities.
Mtu wa kwanza alikaa ndani ilikuwa intense because alikuwa alikuwa tafuta place atawaka
in his faith. Sharon Barana,
that will inspire
TV 47.
and
When the whole world was racing against time to close their borders, impose curfews and lockdowns, Tanzania's President John Magufuli played down the pandemic, refused to close Tanzanian borders, and asked Tanzanians not to wear masks or adhere to any containment measures as issued by the World Health Organization. He declared Tanzania COVID-19 free and asked Tanzanians to continue praying, insisting that prayer will send away the virus. Here is Mwangi Maina's account on how President John Magufuli played down the COVID-19 pandemic in Tanzania.
Once endeared to many Tanzanians, President John Pombe Magufuli was hailed for his no-nonsense approach towards the fight against corruption and impunity in Tanzania, his hard stance on wastage of public resources, and demanding nothing short of excellence and accountability from officials in his government. Magufuli was everybody's darling. Tanzanians nicknamed him Bulldozer, but not until the COVID-19 pandemic struck. President Magufuli literally bulldozed the COVID-19 pandemic and led Tanzanians in defying any containment measures as issued by the World Health Organization. Instead, the devoted Christian called Tanzanians to prayer and insisted God would take away the pandemic.
Endelea kutulinda na kutupitisha pia salama katika kagonjwa haka kadogo ka corona, kwa sababu kwa Mungu haka ni kadogo sana, na tutakashinda katika jina la Yesu. Kuna mahali popote taifa lililomtegemea Mungu likashindwa. Na mimi nataka kuwahakikishia kwa dhamira yangu na mawazo yangu yanavyonituma, Mungu amejibu maombi yetu.
Tanguliza Mungu wakati wa corona, tukafunga siku 3 na baadaye tukamshukuru siku 3. Leo hakuna mwenye corona hapa leo. Tuna banana tu vizuri, hata kitandani bananeni tu vizuri, hakuna cha corona.
Magufuli refused to impose a lockdown or a curfew and encouraged Tanzanians to continue working hard for the prosperity of their nation.
Mtu anazungumza funga Dar es Salaam, funga Tanga, funga. Sifungi. Nilishasema. Ni lazima wa Tanzania tuishi, tuchape kazi na tuendelee kuchukua precaution. Serikali ya Tanzania chini ya uongozi wa Magufuli hakuna lockdown au mwijukuu wa lockdown. Tutaendelea kutamba barabarani.
Magufuli asked his health and foreign affairs ministers not to subject foreigners to quarantine if they had normal body temperatures. Magufuli allowed planes to land in Tanzania as he believed tourists were not afraid of visiting a COVID-19-free Tanzania. He was excited to see China's foreign minister Wang Yi not donning a mask when he visited Tanzania, shook his hands and proceeded for lunch with him.
Wanakuja kwa sababu wanaujua ukweli. Wanakuja kwa sababu Tanzania ni pazuri. Na mimi nimeshatoa maagizo kwa waziri wa maliasili pamoja na waziri wa uchukuzi, waruhusu hizo ndege ziingie na wala hawatawawekea karantini. Akishafika hapa, akishapimwa na temperature akakuta temperature iko kawaida, hana dalili za corona, aenda akaangalia wanyama huko akacoronize huko akaenda. Ninampongeza sana Mheshimiwa Wang Yi. Anajua Tanzania hatuna corona, ndio maana hakuvaa hata yale mabarakoa. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Wang Yi.
So big was his skepticism that he and other government officials secretly took samples of non-living things for COVID-19 testing at the National Referral Laboratory. So puzzling were the results that some samples, including engine oil, tested positive for COVID-19.
Nilipopeleka sample ya papai, tukaipa jina Elizabeth Anne, miaka 26, female. Papai lile lilikuwa positive kwamba lina corona.
He issued a decree for anyone distributing masks to be arrested and cautioned Tanzanians against putting on masks, claiming some could have been infected with COVID-19. He, however, started changing tune when the center could not hold anymore, and the situation in Tanzania was getting out of hand. Magufuli announced he had not barred anyone from putting on masks.
Nishatoa wito kwa Wizara ya Afya na viongozi wangu mikoani na wilayani. Ukimwona mtu anagawa barakoa kwa wananchi, ashikwe akaulize zimekuwa verified wapi. Sijasema msivae barakoa wala msinikoti vibaya, lakini kuna barakoa zingine sio nzuri. Nataka niwaambie huu ndio ukweli. Mtaletewa barakoa zingine ambazo ndizo zenye matatizo.
Magufuli continued to use unorthodox methods to fight the pandemic to the extent of advocating for herbal steam and cautioned Tanzanians against vaccination, claiming Tanzanians who had sneaked out of their country to get vaccinated brought with them a new variant of the virus. He confessed that his own son had contracted COVID-19 but was healed days later after taking herbal concoctions.
Simameni imara. Chanjo hazifai. Siogope, siku moja tutakufa. Hata mimi nitakufa. Kutokana na alicho wakipanga Mungu, naweza nikafa kwa corona, naweza nikafa kwa nini. Na ndio maana mnaniona hata mimi sijavaa barakoa, sio kwamba siogopi kufa.
He continued with his call for prayer and at one time announced Tanzania was COVID-19 free. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Mwangi Maina, TV 47, Nairobi.
Well, Tanzanians continue to eulogize John Pombe Magufuli, who served as the head of state for 6 years, many terming him as a patriot and a leader who was dedicated to his people. Even at the Tanzanian border have eulogized the fallen president.
The death of Tanzanian President John Pombe Magufuli came as a shock to many both in Tanzania and outside the East African country. Along the Kenya-Tanzania border, Kenyans eulogized him as a selfless leader who believed in development.
Watu wamestuka sana upande wa Kenya na wa Tanzania kwa sababu tunakumbuka ya kwamba huyu mzee Magufuli alikuwa ni mtu wa maendeleo, alikuwa anasema kusaba kasi. Ingalao sinde ilikuwa ya kwamba kule kwao kulikuwa hakuna nini kusikilia hii mambo ya corona sana, lakini alikuwa msaba kasi sana.
Alijaribu kupigana na ufisadi na kujaribu kuimarisha utendakaji wa wafanyakazi wa serikali, vile vile kuhudumisha miundo msingi katika nchi ya Tanzania. Kwa hiyo ilikuwa masikitiko yangu haswa nilipopata habari kwamba ameaga dunia.
Sijaona president mwenye amefanya kazi kama Magufuli, kwa sababu nasikia ni yeye president wa kwanza hajaisafiri nje kwenda kutalii venye hao president wengine wao wanatalii nchi zingine.
Nchi ya Tanzania kwa vile wamepoteza their president, mtu mwenye alikuwa anapigania uchumi ya nchi yao.
Diplomatic relations between the two countries have been shaky. Last year, Magufuli threatened to lock out Kenyan drivers getting into Tanzania, but the standoff was resolved following the intervention.
Niliheshimu majirani zangu, tumezungukwa na nchi karibu 8. Ukizifungia maana yake umezinyima uchumi wao. Kuna baadhi ya nchi chakula zinategemea vyakula vya Tanzania. Mahindi, mchele.
Mimi namuona kama rafiki na pia nilikuwa namuona kama kiongozi ambaye ni wa kuigwa na wengi. Ukiangalia utendakazi wake na ukiangalia unavyotenda kazi wewe, lazima utakuwa na swali la kujiuliza, je, ninavyotenda kazi ina sifa kama zile yule bwana anavyozifanya, ama mwananchi anaipokea hiyo namna gani? Kweli Watanzania wamepoteza, wananchi wa Kenya wamepoteza, na jamii nzima ya Afrika imepoteza kiongozi ambaye sidhani kama patatokea mwingine wa kufanana naye.
Na familia hasa ya Rais Pombe Magufuli ambaye ni kiongozi wa Afrika alionyesha uongozi weledi ambao anashughulika sana na mwananchi wa chini wa kawaida, hasa katika maamuzi aliyokuwa anafanya katika baraza zake, hata kongamano zake na raia. Nilimwona Magufuli akiwa kiongozi aliyojali hasa Mtanzania wa chini, yule aliyekuwa chini ya shinikizo la viongozi wagandamizaji na wafisadi, akiwashika mkono na kuwatoa na kupata haki zao.
And as Samia Suluhu takes over the country's leadership, Tanzanians hope that she will steer the country to the right direction.
Tanzania has become the first East African country to have a female president. This is after Samia Suluhu, her son, assumed the office of president following the death of President John Pombe Magufuli. Mama Samia has been Magufuli's vice president since 2015. She now assumes the presidency for the remainder of Magufuli's second term that started last year, as Grace Josephine explains.
As a young girl, Samia Suluhu Hassan enjoyed playing with numbers. She was born in Unguja, commonly known as Zanzibar Island, on the 27th of January in 1960. Young Suluhu's early childhood and education began in the Tanzanian archipelago of Zanzibar, where she studied statistics at the Institute of Financial Administration before serving as a clerk at the Ministry of Planning and Development.
District in Rwanda.
In 1986, Suluhu joined Mzumbe University for advanced studies in public administration before joining the Institute of Management for Leaders in India for a course in management. She also attended the University of Manchester for her postgraduate diploma in economics. In 2005, she did her master's degree in community economic development. The 60-year-old was first elected as a member of the Zanzibar House of Representatives for a special seat in 2000 and was appointed minister by then-President Amani Abeid Karume of Zanzibar. She was the only high-ranking woman minister in that cabinet. Samia was then elected as the Makunduchi constituency Member of Parliament in a landslide win in 2010, marking her entry into national electoral politics. In 2014, former Tanzanian President Jakaya Kikwete appointed her Minister of State for Union Matters for the office of the Vice President. In the same year, she was elected the Vice Chairperson for the Constitutional Assembly, the body tasked with drafting the country's constitution. In July 2015, Tanzania's dominant party, Chama cha Mapinduzi or CCM, presidential nominee Pombe Magufuli chose her as his running mate ahead of the country's general elections. The Magufuli Suluhu ticket won the 2015 general elections, making her the first female vice president. Tanzania's fourth constitution, which was endorsed in 1977, directs that the second in command, that is the vice president, in this case Suluhu Hassan, should take over the presidency with immediate effect. Grace Josephine, reporting for TV47, Tanzania.
All right, more or less the stories that we have. We still have a couple that speak of different scenarios apart from the Magufuli factor. Indeed, the death of Jennifer, and of course, an autopsy showing that she was strangled, the by-elections in Machakos, the vaccination apathy that lies or lingers within, the CDF delay standoff and that reprieve. Finally, as members of parliament are able to get this. Remember last week, actually, beginning this week, they had threatened to stop all the government activities or not to deliberate on the government activities until these monies were disbursed. The aspect of us being very keen and cautious while using the roads, all that has been compiled for you. We'll still be having more as we proceed with the day. But now it's a time that we shift to a different conversation altogether. We briefly look at the politics of tribe. We've had a couple of guests here who in a huge way have registered the kind of interest that they have in regards to addressing the matter of tribes right here in the country. While we could want to bury our heads in the sand and say that, well, tribe is not a factor, that long gone are the days where tribe was a driving factor in terms of how we get our political leaders, how we get people into certain mantles of power, how we get people into the civil service. Reality is that this problem still lingers. And while we would say it is important to pride in our very own tribes, it is also important to note that even as we pride, sometimes we take it to a level that it becomes toxic. Remember the tongues or the terms of, 41 or 40 against 1. Remember the terms of 2 against or 40 against 2 and all this. So these are some of the things that we probably need to keenly look at. Remember what President Uhuru Kenyatta spoke about, that maybe if you're talking about the hustlers and the dynasties, probably we should also look at this angle where we say, two tribes have been at the top of the helm in the country. Maybe it is a time for another tribe to take up this. Just how genuine and honest are some of these utterances? And I mean, how effective are they towards ensuring that we get sanity and we get regional balance? The Constitution itself dictates that we should have regional balance in the appointive positions, nominative positions, speak of just how, the president is able to balance the cabinet and so much so. So while we could want to run away from this, reality is that we have to speak about. Honorable Eseli Simiyu, earlier on this week, spoke of such scenario and he says this is deep-rooted. We are an ethnocentric society, and therefore we'd probably need to sit down and find legislative issues that can be incorporated, well, say in the constitution, that would help us, strengthen the love that we have for our tribes, but at the same time ensure that they're not used as vehicles to causing us trouble. You've seen what has happened in Ethiopia. You've seen what is happening in Nigeria. You have seen what is happening in countries like Cameroon. The animosity that plays out in regards to other tribes feeling marginalized is something that certainly needs to be addressed, if at all Africa has to speak in the same language. So alongside my guests, that is governance expert PMG Kamau, who will be joining us via Skype, and of course Dr. Joseph Rotich, who is an economist and equally a political pundit, we get to decipher this matter and we get to address just how best can we get ourselves off the hook, because reality is that we are deep-rooted within. Daktari, good to have you.
Hey, good morning.
Asante sana for your time, as always, and Ali Bad.
Thank you so much. May God bless you.
Bless you more.
Amen.
And we also have PMG. Good morning. We will miss you so much today. How are you?
Fine, Rida. We'll miss you too, but the coronavirus dictates that I operate from home.
That is okay. That is.
I also told you that I'm a kidney transplant patient.
Yes.
So I take care of myself. I don't want to feel cold. Corona now is it's our worst enemy.
Yes.
So I'm happy to get you. I say hi to my friend Rotich.
Thank you so much. Welcome, my brother.
I'm happy to engage you today on tribalism.
Yes, and we are happy to have you as always. Indeed, we have said, and the president has maintained, the World Health Organization, they say that, you know what, please do not drop the guard. It is important that you take care of yourself. And for that reason, we say thank you, because, automatically you've also taken care of us, because now the social distance is probably ×2 what is expected. Dr. Rotich is on the other side, but well, still in studio. And so we get to the conversation, tribalism. I remember when President Uhuru Kenyatta mentioned this, guns blazing. People were out there to say that he is unfair. People were out there to say that, you know what, President, this is the last thing that we'd expect to hear from you. Others, though, felt like, the President was just honest and, revived a conversation that we probably needed to have. Remember at that point when we were trying to get, representatives at IALA, some speaking of nepotism, others speaking of the aspect of tribe. And the question was, if an individual is good enough to go out there and offer their services, if they have, credibility records, then you cannot bar them on basis of tribe. You cannot bar them on basis of, nepotism. You cannot bar them on basis of political affiliation. But again, there are others who strongly feel that while we could be priding in this, the tribe factor is not one that we'd want to overlook. If at all we want to address the deep-rooted problems that we face as a country right from independence. Daktari.
I think, Linda, one thing that I must stress is the remark that His Excellency the President actually talked about the tribes.
Yeah.
Actually, he spoke the idea to counteract the issue of the dynasties, the issue of those families who have led this country for a good number of years.
Yeah.
I don't think it meant that we have to align ourselves in terms of tribal cocoons or tribal groupings. And it is something, he said, if I say, that is how he talked about. I can also say the two tribes who have led this country for several years, especially the Kalenjins and the Kikuyus, they should be the least to ask for to contest for this one. So that basically meant that he never said that I want to have this country now lining up, because we have over 40 tribes, Linda.
Yes.
And 40 tribes, if we have to line up ourselves, for how many years will Doropo will come up? And as I said, Linda, politics is about numbers. It's about how many are you. Can you form a strong foundation before you ask for your alignment with other tribes?
Okay.
So in this case, what can we say about the smaller tribes? What can we say about the huge tribes? Now we are talking about the Kikuyus over 8 million, and the Luyas following. Then of course the Luos, the Kalenjins, that lineup. So if we have to go by the way the politics demands, because the politics demands that you need to have numbers.
Okay.
And if you have numbers that are aligned to your tribe, it means that you'll always be having an advantage over the others.
Yeah.
So tribe is not an issue that we must discuss about. It should be something that should be behind bars. And then again, leader, you can also look at, if you can see what the Tanga team actually are saying. They are terming themselves as hustlers. And when you talk about the hustlers, they are not referring to a tribe.
Yeah.
They are referring to, those who are under the same economic pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, the small man in the village, they normally say the boda walas, the mamamboga, and all those. So that does not really tell more about the tribe. It tells more about that kind of a small beginning as far as the economic status is concerned.
Well, while that could be an argument that holds, and if we're to speak about numbers, then I'd want to assume, based on the latest and even the previous reports that we have received in regards to the census, reality is that there are tribes like the Luya who will come out to say, you know what, we have numbers, for crying out loud. The Luo fraternity will also say we have the numbers, for crying out loud. Probably they beat the Kalenjin in terms of numbers. And so I'm sorry that I have to bring this up, but I'm glad at the same time that I have, guests that, have had a chance to enjoy, the power, the top seat of the land. And so in this case, probably would be the best people to articulate on this particular matter. Coming to you, PMG, do you think this argument is here or there?
Rita, thank you very much. This country has been in denial, complete denial. The problems of this country are the Kalenjins, my tribe Kikuyu, and the Luos.
Okay.
Right from 1963, Jomo Kenyatta teamed up with Odinga. They fell out in 1966. And Odinga went to the Hazara nation, or what you would call Ujamaism, or what you would call Marxism, or what you would call communism. And they deferred with Jomo Kenyatta. He ended up forming Kenya People's Union. In my area, that is Kandara Muranga,
yes,
we used to call it the party of the poor. In fact, in Kikuyu, we used to say the party of people with torn clothes. And the party aspired to get riches from those that had already had. That they targeted people with money. They targeted people with means. It was almost equivalent to Hazara dynasty nation. Reader from there, the Jomo Kenyatta joined up with Daniel Moi, the Kalenjins. Daniel Moi was such a humble person, or he pretended to be extremely humble, and he walked the humbleness. He was beaten up. He was denied entry in State House. He was blocked by police roadblocks. And when he took over, he joined up with Kikuyus, called Jomo, the then Jonjo, Charles Jonjo, the Duke of Kabetashire. And when they took over, Jonjo came to our place, and he told us that this is a small this is a small crowd passing. When Jojo teamed up with supposedly with Raila Amolo Odinga to overthrow the Moi government in 1982, Moi became himself an extremely dangerous, violent person. And for the next 24 years, Moi was himself. It became the worst time in history of the Republic of Kenya. The tensions were there. First, whatever you can think about human rights violation, it was targeted. In fact, for these Kikuyu people, the language was that these people have moved further than us. And then at one time in 1985, we were called in Njeri. By then I was the deputy town Karakamuranga, Kiambu County Council. And we appeared before Nyachai, who said that farasi imekimbia sana, lazima ishikwe ndio puda ipite. We saw now another teaming up with Mzee Odinga, too old, but he became a factor that continued. And then Moi tried again, Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga came in, and the Tinga was swallowed by KANU, the Moi party. Thereafter, Odinga teamed up. You remember Saitoti, you remember Kamotho at Kasarani.
Yes.
When Kamotho said, "Hii ni kichinjio," where Sasa Raila Amolo Odinga was made the Secretary General of KANU. But when it came to taking over, Moi stood up and said, there comes a time. It is so to say there comes a time when a person becomes bigger, when a nation becomes bigger than a nation. That time, the Kikuyus and Kalenjins teamed up. But when it came to taking over, Moi took Uhuru back again. This was in 2002, when in Kasarani, Moi again told Saitoti on the face that there's some politics is not about friends. Friendship is different from politics.
Okay.
Thereafter, Odinga teamed up with Kibaki, and after they teamed up, now they got to the 42, almost against one. Uhuru and Moi were set aside. Then again the rules and Kibaki. It went on until 2007. 2007 again, Raila Amolo Odinga teamed up with the Rutos. And then we had 2007, 2008 violence, the worst of his kind.
Okay.
1,200 people died. 650,000 people were displaced. Then it has gone on until now, Ruto again teams up with Uhuru, 2013. To date, we are waiting 2022 for what will be the teaming. Raila is looking for a team. Ruto is looking for a team. They are both teaming up.
Where are all these other tribes? Maybe hold it right there. And thank you so much for taking us through that, line of history. At least we get a background in regards to this. But when we listen to what PMG speaks about, then the key questions we'd ask, where are all these other tribes? Two, then we ask, in such a scenario, they are deeply rooted into leadership. They are probably what we would refer to as the system. And they are probably individuals that are so much engraved into getting into power and, dragging in their kingsmen, dragging in their tribesmen. So evidently, they are not people who would be willing to relent any time. So in such a scenario, are we speaking of a battle that will never be won, in the sense that we'll always have the very same individuals and the very same tribes at the top of the hill, and nothing can be done in regards to that? And maybe the other tribes have decided to take a backseat because they say, after all.
I want to thank you, Linda. I want to thank Mr. Kamau. Kamau has elaborated extensively on how we have grown up as a nation, how we have formed governments by tribes. And what we are saying, it is an ugly history that we have. When we talk about tribes, we are talking about the several other tribes who have never even come near to the power.
Odinga. Raila Odinga came.
And what is so real now is that in Kenya, politics must change its direction.
Okay.
Politics must have its true meaning of a nation. Because when we talk about this tribe coming together with another tribe to defeat another tribe, we are not talking about a nation. We are talking about the tribal cocoons who are selfish. They are actually working on a selfish path to get power out of the crooked means by alignment, bringing together the tribes who are perceived to be more in number to defeat the smaller ones. I mean, this is the kind of injustice that this country has witnessed since independence. And this is what we can say, Linda. We can never praise the work, we can never praise any devilish kind of machination as it has been portrayed in the Kenyan system since independence. When you are told that this one came up with this one to defeat this one came up to defeat this one, since independence to date, and that has been the cause of our tribal clashes, that has been the cause of the disunity in this country, and it is a part that we must disown. It's a part that we must refuse as a country. So even as you look at Linda, what we are looking at, it is the alignment in the offing. It is a coalition in the offing where you have these other tribes. I mean, tribal hates. as indicated by some of the, I mean, you saw recently, Linda, where Kalonzo, Gideon Moi, we have Wetangula, we have Mudavadi, where we have all these people coming together. And some of them have supposedly spoken openly. Like Ngilu say that what we want to do is to defeat this hustler nation, to defeat this Ruto's, the Tanga team.
Yeah.
So they are coming together, not necessarily to take over the government for any good intention, but to defeat an individual who has come up in the name of hustler nation. And in fact, the only difference between this coalition that is in the offing, if it will ever be a coalition, is the mind to marginalize a particular group that has come up crystallizing, not in the name of tribalism, but in the name of hustler nation. So in this case, I think it is a high time for Kenyans to disown the so-called tribalism or tribal connotation or tribal chauvinism, where we feel that we are better than the rest. And there was something you said, Linda. I am a Kalenjin, and yes, we have been in power for 24 years, and then we have had also our 10 as the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
Yeah.
We are not saying that we have been better than the rest. What the tribe has actually portrayed, if you can call them tribe, is an all-inclusive kind of leadership that the nation has really benefited. We are not saying that the Kalenjins have, I mean, you go to everywhere in the Rift Valley, and then you cannot tell those people who have been in power and those people who have not been in power, because it has not been as a result of being in power that we have been able to benefit. There is nothing like that. And in fact, if you have been following what Madagarua said, Madagarua once said that we people, let us really understand. You go to Baringo, just hardly a kilometer away from Baringo, you get very many poor people, as those ones you can get in Nyanza, as those ones you can get in Central. They are also saying that the Kikuyus have been in power for all this time. But go to Katundu, just at Chasen, you will find the same poor people like those ones in Kisumu. What does that indicate? It indicates that this power, angry tribal connotation, has never succeeded in this country to benefit their own people.
Well, there you go. As they would say, if the prices of unga, or if the price of unga is, it shoots up, definitely a Kikuyu, a Kalenjin, a Jaluo will go to the supermarket and buy this unga. The same price. Nothing different, nothing special for the Kikuyus, nothing special for the Kalenjins. But then again, we still have to come back with that conversation and probably hear PMG's argument or side of a story in regards to this.
Way to kickstart your day in the morning? Well, apart from having a healthy breakfast, the Morning Cafe is all you need. We will inform you on what's happening on the roads, dive deeper into the newspapers, alongside heated political debates. Did you know that your greatest wealth is health?
Then we start eating right, and that's what I do in my clinic.
With some good Friday vibes. The Morning Cafe with Linda Alela, Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. only on TV 47. On the grind, we bring you different entrepreneurs who give the story of their businesses with love and passion.
I'm a musician forever. This is something that is inborn.
It excites me each day. It's a field that has always excited me.
Because when you show love to your business, it will show love to you.
The most rewarding bit of being a photographer is seeing a bride able to see her images of her wedding and evoke emotion in her and just relive the moment once again.
Get to hear these stories and so much more every Monday at 7:30 p.m. On Coffee with Movie, we bring you great testimonies from amazing personalities.
Mwanzo wa kwanza alikaa ndani ilikuwa intense cause alikuwa yeye alikuwa atafuta place atawaka akifanya thesis zake.
Stories that will inspire and encourage you.
Hiyo kitu ilisha waswali clap. Sheila told us this is what we've been looking for.
And some that will even make you laugh out loud.
You have kahawa ya kutuliza temperature kabla ya hiyo story.
Na wewe hukuleta mandazi bro.
Mbona ingeandikwa coffee and mandazi nzuri.
Make sure you catch the episodes of Coffee with Movie every Sunday at 8 p.m.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast. Still with me, Dr. Joseph Rotich, who's an economist and equally a political pundit. And we also have PMG, who joins us via Skype. PMG Kamau is a governance expert. And we are discussing the aspect of tribe and how it shapes the politics of the day, shapes development, and shapes, the good existence of a people, in a certain nation, not necessarily Kenya, but well, we are taking that as the case study. And PMG, coming to you, you speak of the problems of Kenya being the Kikuyus, the Kalenjin, and the Luos. One, we keep saying that it's good to pride in your own tribe. You've had the argument that Doctor presents, that you know what, life is never better for the Kikuyus just because, their own is at the top of the helm. It is never better for the Kalenjins just because their own is at the top of the helm. I remember at some point in time, you were here and you spoke highly of how the Kikuyus went out there to fight the colonialists, to send them away so that we can get independence and gain independence. And for that reason, you said you were proud to be one, and you are confident that some of the goodies or the main goodies should go that way simply because, well, you fought for it and it is only fair that you get that fair share of the goodies that come along with that. Why then would you look at these key leaders who've led us, or these key tribes that have appeared to be at the top of the helm, as troubles for the country?
Thank you, Rinda, and I appreciate Rotich for his comments. He has touched on some things that this country has experienced. But you realize tribalism is an emotional experience.
Yes.
Tribalism is also sentimentalism. It is also a spiritual endowment, which you can never get away. And the readers create choruses for us, but they call the tune. That's why I'm saying, how significant, something, reader, why I like the BBI.
Right.
If you look at the 9-point agenda, it tries to solve the problems of 1963 to date. Inclusivity, ethnicity, equity and equality, sharing of the national resources, tribalism, and the fact that this country has been segregated to leadership of few tribes has been assumed to have been excluded others to have shared more than the others. I am challenging Rotich, I am challenging you, reader, I am challenging TV47 to look at the risk of employment in government ministries in parastatus from 2002 to date, and list how many every time you are in power, how many Kikuyus are there? Every time you are in power, how many Kalenjins are there? Every time you are in power, how many Luos are there? At one time I said, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has no government. His share of the government is 25%. Because Kebaki people are still in the government.
Okay.
Because the Raila people are still in government. Because Moi people are in government. To date, right now as we talk, it is 50-50. Just go to parastatus. Just go to government institutions. Everywhere. The employment there is based on it, and it is not now. I remember sometimes when I was a young man, this person called Dr. Kano, when he was the Minister for Education, there was a hue and cry in Parliament. He was asked, how come that we see every senior people in the Ministry of Education is a Kikuyu? You know what he replied? He said that I don't see Kikuyus, I see qualified people.
Okay.
Now the question is, were there other tribes qualified?
Definitely they were there.
Yes. This is what I'm saying, that the dominance of the three tribes also affects the sharing of resources. It affects the sharing of government appointments. It affects the access to resources.
Okay.
That's why you see the Kikuyus were defeated in Senate when we tried to talk about one man, one vote, one sharing.
Okay.
What were we talking about? We were talking about a child in Northeastern, a child in Coast, a child in Western, a child in Rift Valley must have equal share. There must be equal access to wealth. There must be equal access and opportunities to like any other child. You cannot continue telling us that these people are marginalized. I'm asking you, from when Moi took over, the Kikuyus got marginalized for the last 24 years. The cooperatives died. The circles died. Until Moi came back, Kibaki came back, the land buying companies had been finished. The coffee cooperatives came to a steady still. The tea because these people have moved. They confused the Kikuyu hardworking mentality and creation of wealth to tribalism. And for that reason, we were to be finished. Everyone thought, at one time, somebody told me that the Kikuyus go to a particular bank, I'm not going to say because it's a Kikuyu bank, and they said, you talk in Kikuyu language. And if you pretend to talk Kikuyu language, you don't get the money.
Oh.
The people's mind has been destroyed for leadership purposes. Nahasra nation is just another chorus.
Okay. Constitution
is just another chorus. You hear now people are talking about constitutionalism. They are talking about there must be freedom of choice. There must be freedom to become a president. It doesn't matter how many times Kikuyus become president. Okay. It doesn't matter how many times the Kalenjins become president. It doesn't matter how many times the rules pursue.
But in real sense, if this is to be legislated, if this is to be incorporated in, the Constitution and all these documents of power and documents that hold the law, would you confidently say that it is not unfair, that it is okay to have them, the same tribe constantly coming into power, and we overlook all that?
Tribalism coming to power affecting sharing of the resources.
Okay.
That is critical. It affects access to appointments.
Would you say the people of Central, of Mount Kenya, having had like 3 presidents, at the top of the helm, have been able to benefit so much so that the other regions of the country or the other tribes can confidently say, the leaders that have been there have talked about the interests of their people as compared to the interests of the entire nation?
In that scenario, there is what you would call individualism.
Okay.
There is what you would call sectionalism. The practice of tribalism goes down to practice of sectionalism. That goes down to practice of individualism, the family syndrome.
Does it then not justify the Haslan dynasty narrative before we bring in Dr. Ray?
That's a narrative is another song, is a chorus.
Is it not exactly what you're saying, that Then it gets to the aspect of individualism, family,
if you want to know that,
clique.
If you want to know that, reader, go to Facebook and see what the current readers are talking about. Mumupige, mumuadoe, mtaona. It is going all over. Hasra Nation is mobilizing. You see, by the end of the day, and I'm telling you, and I take this to the bank, July this year, after the passing of the referendum, there will be new arrangements. There will be, where are the people that I'm going to team with?
Okay.
Ruto is going to align himself with people.
Well, and indeed, PFG, that is true.
It is already happening. You can see Raila now have got Kifuza Kibwana.
Yes.
You can see he's got Muhisa Kichui. And last time I listened to Ruto in his own native language, he said, do not worry about the BBI. If the executive is expanded, I have got many friends.
Yes.
I will get one there, get one there, get one there. What are we trying to say? July this year is another tribal rearrangement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Coming to you, Daktari, and I mean, again, his sentiments purely justified.
I think, Linda, when we talk about tribal cocoons, it is actually the dark side of our history that we must disown.
Okay.
Kenyans have come of age. And you can remember, Linda, the coming up of devolved governments, the 47 governments that we are talking today. It was brought in to solve the problem of take it all.
Yes.
Yes, I'm not referring about the take it all of the government that was said, but what I'm saying, the devolved function of the government disseminate resources to the very people at the grassroots in every part of this nation. You talk about the CDF, you talk about the county governments, and you talk about the employments that that is done at the county level. So in this case, it tells you that Kenyans and Kenya government has come of age since independent. And let me tell you, Linda, PPI is not a new thing or a new phenomenon in our political history. Because what they are just explaining are the things that we have actually tested. Coming up with the Prime Minister's position, we have had the Prime Minister's position in the past. Coming up with all these things. In fact, when you look at the PPI critically, it is generally what we have. It is telling us what we failed to implement in the 2010 Constitution. There is nothing that is majorly new.
Okay.
And one thing that we need to learn, Linda, is because if we have failed as a country to implement the 2010 Constitutions, and we say, let us come up with this one. I mean, the coming up with this new format or whatever, Constitution, it is not in any way replacing the 2010 Constitution. They have just replaced most of the things that are there in the old Constitution. So what we have to do as a country, we must go back to where we failed. Where we fail when we align ourselves with our tribes. And in any case, this has been our undoing. This has made this country really fought for many years. You talk about tribal clashes.
Have we strengthened that with the aspect of devolution? I remember when there were conversations of Jimboism. Many argue that this is going to create a lot of animosity. Imagine a region that is not resource rich. And imagine what it is that we probably had during the terms of Waitito, that, you know what, we do not want to see people from a different region coming to Kiambu. If there is anything that should be enjoyed at the level of Kiambu County, then should be, people who are from Kiambu. You have worked with Kiambu. I don't know whether you still work with them at some point in time. I do not know whether the environment is as friendly, knowing that, this is a person that hails from a different region. And I'll tell you this for free. I have had guests coming here, including governors, and they work with their very own people that they work with, their assistants and all that. And you find that if it's a governor from central region, say Muranga, the foot soldiers and the people who are working with him are purely and squarely Kikuyu.
But what is happening, Linda? What was the meaning of devolution? The meaning of devolution was to devolve the resources to the respective county governments, taking the governments to the people. And that was the major thing. And of course, the government can, the county governments can only benefit their own people by employing them.
The very same people who speak of, oh, these resources come to our place, and so in that case, then let's know, if the Turkana, if oil was doing so well from Turkana, do you suppose they'd want to share equitably this resource across? I mean, look at Nigeria. Allow me to just say this. You find that there are lots of wars right now between the Anglo-speaking and the Francophone speakers and all that. And some of them speak of the Igbo land. The Igbo land that is full of resource, that is full of, people with wisdom and, learned and so much so. So the argument is that they want to go their way because they feel like with the resources that they have, that is actually driving Nigeria, they can easily stay on their end and probably not care about the other sides.
Let me tell you, Linda, the resources that are divided into the county governments are resources which are collected by the central government.
Yes.
So in this case, the taxable capacity of the central government, or those areas that the county government actually, the central government are taxing, it is a wider area. So part of the taxation and the resources that are meant, the national resources, like mining, those are national issues. You talk about foreign and whatever, industries, they are actually done, the national government taxes these particular entities. So in this case, we cannot say if we have oil in our area, like what happened actually in the Northeastern, when they said that we need a particular share of the oil resource to be plowed back to the county governments, and that is a very good thing. It has also happened in Narok, in these other places about the tourist resort areas, that whatever is achieved, whatever is gotten out of this, it has to be recalculated back to those areas for development. That in itself is a good thing, but it is not. It doesn't mean that because we have resources, we have the natural resources in our area, it is going to become an entire ownership of the county government. That is not the case. But what we are saying, Linda, it is not about the tribal leadership that is important in this country. It is about a leader who is able to unite the whole country and share resources, in a very fair way to every region. What my brother Kama was actually been discussing, or rather was suggesting, is about representations. He said that the central province, with all the magnitude, a high population, about 8 million and plus population, that we need to have a better representations. And of course, that is our human right. They are also saying that we need to have more resources. And of course, the bigger the community, or rather, the bigger the population, you can imagine also that taxation or taxable capacity major part actually comes from that area. So in this sense, what are we trying to say? When they say 1 man, 1 shilling, I have no problem at all. When they say that they need an additional constituencies, I have no problem at all. But have we shared the national resources equally? Now, Linda, this is what we also must undertake when we are actually thinking about dividing resources. There are those areas like Turkana, there are those areas like Northeastern. Yes, they are sparsely populated, but their poverty index is also one thing. So since we are talking about a nation, we must always, whenever we are dividing our resources, look at those areas who are more poorer than us, because we want to develop them. We want to become a nation. So as much as we are talking about equal share of the resources, we also have to be mindful of the general welfare of the Kenyans. How are they wherever they are? Are they only supposed to be talk about the numbers? We must talk about their own welfare, so that we can bring Kenyans all on board, so that they can enjoy the country's resources fair.
How best can we do this? We probably need to have this, some of these things, at the level of the Constitution, make sure that they are, legislative clauses incorporated. And probably that is what the BBI seeks to achieve, even in terms of the monies that they speak about, in terms of considering these other regions. But then again, if we are to make roadside declarations, I'm afraid, knowing of how it is that we perform, we might not be able to achieve this briefly.
I think putting everything in the Constitution, Linda.
Yes. It's okay. Let's allow him 30 seconds and then we come to you.
I think what I'm trying to say, Linda, is that when we divide our resources equally through all the parts of Kenya, there is something what we call equalization fund. Equalization fund is a special fund that will top up now those regions that their poverty index is very high. So in this case, when we say that we need to increase, that is why when they were discussing about this PPI issue, those people who are coming from arid areas, those people who are their economic status is very low, they were also arguing that we need to be empowered Where do we sell our cows? Where do we sell our coats? Where do we sell all these things? So they needed a space in the market as far as the economy is concerned. So what we are trying to say, Linda, if we have a well-resourced equalization fund, which will actually gather for those who are very low economically, that we shall be in one direction, than having a situation whereby we have to put a lot of money where it is already developed. You talk of a place like Nairobi, adding more resources in Nairobi. Yes, this is a first world county where we have almost everything. We have good schools, we have good roads, we have electricity, we have water, we have all these things that we can talk about. And then you deny Turkana those people who cannot even have a sip of water. You saw recently in Lodwar, in these other places, Karisa, people, animals are dying, people are dying.
Drought, yes.
Poverty, you can, in immeasurable terms. And you can imagine telling me that we can still stay comfortable in Nairobi when those people are dying. And we are pulling ourselves Kenyans.
Okay, yes, PMG, come in.
We need to interject here.
Right.
Wewe daktari wewe. You live in this country. You sound like you don't live in this country. Let me tell you something. Equalization fund is not given to forests or deserts. Equalization fund is given to people. Poverty index is an economic jargon. There is always individual poverty. Equalization fund is based on poverty levels. In fact, currently, is that the poor person is a person who do not get 100 shillings per day. How many people in Kandara do not get 100 shillings? So that you give Northeastern priority to poor people who are not getting 100 shillings. What is the difference between poverty in Kandara and poverty in Northeastern? I want to bring your attention, Daktari, to Mathare or Kibera. They don't have anywhere to dig toilets. What area big enough to bring toilets in Northeastern? Why are we refusing to address the real issue? And for the time being, Professor, do not engage in, this is not an academic exercise. It's a reality that is happening on the ground. If you look at the current constitution, Article 69, there is sharing of the natural resources. Let me ask you something. Why would Turkana get 25% of their oil, and in Kandara we are not getting 25% of water coming from Dakaine to Nairobi? I want to ask you something. Article 25 of the Constitution talks about right to life. How do you get to right to life? Hospitals with enough medicine, access to the hospital beds, access to any health facility, so that you can enjoy your life. How do you enjoy your life? In Kiambu alone, you have got 2.5 million people. In Northeastern, 3 counties, you have got 2.5 million people. You give Northeastern 34 billion. You give Kiambu 10 billion. What kind of equalization is this? There is no definition. There is no economic terms.
But how do we get these counties and these places that are lowly developed to?
Murang'a is currently we are getting 6 billion. With the BBI, we shall be 11 billion. This is after the amendment of Article 203 and combining it with Article 43 of the Constitution. The Article 203 current talks about sharing of wealth, and it creates marginalization. But this is counteracted by Article 43 of the Constitution, which talks every man or woman born of a woman has got economic and social rights. Combine this Article 43 with Article 203, there will be equal sharing of resources. Let me ask you, Daktari, when camels and goats are being paid in Northeastern, what about our maize? They die because there is no rain. Our maize die because of no rain. Where do you get the difference? How do you get somebody who gets 3,000 shillings for CDF, while another one is educated up to the university with the CDF? What happened to that right now under Article 43, economic and social right? What happened to Article 53 of the Constitution that talks about educational rights? So, BBI properly, and I don't want to tell you that I have got a lot of respect for you. You have not read BBI.
All right.
Because if you have done...
No, let him say
BBI,
whether it's true or not.
I think, Linda, I like...
I agree. Let me Linda, look at Article 11A, sharing of wealth and resources.
That is on the bill.
It takes care of resources in every county, in every sector. When members of parliament, for example, coffee that died in our area, tea that died in our area, it is going to get back to parliament. Akina Gachagua are talking something right. Okay. They are talking about guaranteed minimum return. The Hasra Nation is talking about guaranteed minimum return. The Constitution have institutionalized agriculture. They go to parliament again. That's why I challenge them to go to parliament before 2022 so that they can help the Hasras there. Because what has been provided in the Constitution now is going to be enacted in parliament. That's where we go for guaranteed minimum. What does a guaranteed minimum return mean? It means if I'm sharing fish.
Okay. Then how do we get ourselves out of this? That while
we get ourselves out of this by having a no contested referendum. We get out of this by enacting what we think. If you has a nation, let me tell you, I agree with the Rotich. If you go to Kisumu now and you are bright-footed, if they don't talk at all, you will think you are in Nairobi. You think in your Thika Hassan, you think you are talking to hawkers and you are carrying. The difference, what makes you to know where you are, is the language. Yeah. The status is the same.
Okay, well, gentlemen, I know this is one subject that we really cannot expound some more on.
I personally concur in some issues with my brother Kamau.
Yes.
As, when he talks about the equalization, and one thing that I want to express, Linda, is about, take an example for Nairobi. When the NMS took over Nairobi, now you can see a lot of changes in terms of the welfare of Nairobians, in terms of infrastructure. There are good roads now, there is cleanliness, and you can imagine where would we have been without NMS. So when my brother Kamau says, because I mean there are poor people in Kandara, there are poor people in Kiambu, there are poor people, I mean, we need to have, I mean, much of what we are discussing is about misplaced priorities.
Okay.
Because if you have been having resources and you are not able to develop your own people, then who should you blame? We cannot blame the government just because of what if the county governments, if the county government has been paid, if the county government received the money, and I tell you, Linda, for free, every county government in this country have an average of about 4 billion in every year. Yeah. So in this case, the money that they are receiving is a lot, and it should be able to meet the needs of the people in that area. If it is infrastructure, there must be good infrastructure. If it is about the empowerment of the communities or our own people, they have the money at. The only problem that we have been having is about misplaced priorities. So in this case, I must congratulate the government, the current government of the Nairobi, because of the much work that it has done. The good roads that we are enjoying now is as a result of the NMS that we are actually talking about.
Okay.
And this is a well-placed priority. And I really congratulate His Excellency the President for the same, because without him, this Nairobi would not have been the way it is now.
All right, gentlemen, I know we'd want to expand some more on this aspect of tribe because it's crucial. We've not even captured quarter of it. Time, though, is not on our side, but I can assure you that we're going to have this conversation again as we look at the legislative angles that can be brought on board so that we solve this conversation of, tribe being a factor of driving politics and the fact that it drives politics in a negative way. So I'll allow you 30 seconds to probably give us a roundup of the same, maybe pass your condolences to the people of Tanzania and the East African community at large, even as we look forward to another Friday where we extensively look at just what, the Constitution speaks of regional balance and whether regional is as good as tribe, and how do we segregate the same, and have a conversation where we'll still have the leaders that will go out there with, priorities that are set right for the benefit of the nation. PMG, in 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. I sympathize with the peoples of the Republic of Tanzania, and it is frightening to have a president die in office. I was there when Jomo Kenyatta died, and the state of the nation people become worried, they emotionally become destabilized. Even those who hated Jomo Kenyatta became very worried. What next? And I believe that is what is also happening to people of Tanzania. Magufuli, I liked him because he was a religious person. We agreed so much when it came to religion. At one time, I would pray that God listen to Magufuli because he says you can heal. Let this corona heal in Tanzania. But again, I don't know what happened in his lifetime. He changed it to be an extremely cruel person, a violent person, a person who cherished the dictatorship, a person who would make people at this age run away from their own country. We have got so many problems in Kenya, but I have never seen that tolerance now that has happened in the Republic of Kenya. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter whom you abuse. Sometimes you simply let go. It was not like that. We experienced a new wave of dictatorship in Tanzania. My hope is that the new president is already may be able, sympathetic and motherly, rough, and bring back the rights of individuals, including a right to speech, right to talk, elective rights, and what have you. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, PMJ. Daktari.
Thank you so much, Linda. One thing that I want to ask Kenyans, tribalism is a threat to our national unity. And it is something that the colonial powers used to divide Kenyans and rule them. We don't want to go back to that dark part of our history. We want to forge ahead as Kenyans, devoid of all these tribal cocoons, tribal connotation, and we walk as a nation that means well for its own people. And that is my take, Linda. And let me take this opportunity to really send my condolence to the people, great people of Tanzania, for the loss of their great man, the President Pombe Joseph Magufuli. It was a tragic incident because the election had just been done the other day. He has only been 5 months old in his second tenure. So, and we pray that the incoming president will actually take Tanzanians to the greater heights of development. And we are honoring that our cooperation with Tanzania, the cooperation between Kenya and Tanzania will always continue as it has been. Otherwise, we really pray for the people of Tanzania. They must take heart, they must live again, they must continue with their day-to-day work, and God will bless that great nation as they bless us.
Yes, politics of tribe is what we were discussing this morning. Evidently we could not be able to expound extensively on that or, in totality as we would have expected, but not to worry because it is a subject that we can ponder some more on another time. It's now time that we shift focus again back to the aspect of Magufuli. We have 7 days of mourning upon that declaration by President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday in his capacity as the chairperson of the East African Community, and therefore it is only fair share. We look at his reign, we look at what he's left us, we look at what he's taken away, and we pick the lessons from it. And expounding some more on that or helping us decipher on this particular subject is none other than an international relations expert.
Start your day in the morning. Well, apart from having a healthy breakfast, the Morning Cafe is all you need. We will inform you on what's happening on the roads, dive deeper into the newspapers, alongside heated political debates. Did you know that your greatest wealth is health?
Then we start eating right, and that's what I do in my clinic.
With some good Friday vibes. The Morning Cafe with Linda Alela, Monday to Friday, from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Only on TV 47. On the Grind, we bring you different entrepreneurs who give the story of their businesses with love and passion.
I'm a musician forever. This is something that is inborn.
It excites me each day. It's a field that has always excited me.
Because when you show love to your business, it will show love to you.
The most rewarding bit of being a photographer is seeing a bride able to see her images of her wedding and evoke emotion in her and just relive the moment once again.
Get to hear these stories and so much more every Monday at 7:30 p.m. On Coffee with Movie, we bring you great testimonies from amazing personalities.
So wa kwanza alikaa ndani ilikuwa intense cause alikuwa alikuwa atafuta place atawaka akifanya thesis zake.
Stories that will inspire and encourage you.
Hiyo kitu ilisha waswali clap. Sheila told us this is what we've been looking for.
And some that will even make you laugh out loud.
You have chapa kawa ya kutuliza temperature kabla ya hiyo story.
Na wewe hukuleta mandazi bro.
Mbona ingeandikwa coffee and mandazi?
Make sure you catch the episodes of Coffee with Movie every Sunday at 8 p.m. TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Yeah, but well, a conversation that we've had for the better part of yesterday, looking into the reign of departed Tanzanian president, that is Joseph John Pombe Magufuli. We still talk about that upon that declaration by the different countries, and also President Uhuru Kenyatta in his capacity as the East African chairperson, that is East African Community chairperson. He has declared 7 days of mourning for Joseph Pombe Magufuli. The same also declared in Tanzania 14 days of mourning, and many other countries, the East African nations that have come together to mourn this fallen gallant soldier. And we'll be getting into this conversation briefly, look at the pros, the cons, the lessons that we get out of his leadership in about 30 minutes or thereabout. To help us understand some more on that is Professor Macharia Munene, who's an international relations expert, and we'll be deciphering on that on a professional or a pundit's perspective. But before that, we have our very own Joash Onsari on standby, that is in Machakos County. He's been following up on the by-elections that were conducted yesterday, the senatorial by-elections, and gives us the updates, or keeps us up to speed in regards to what is happening there. Vote counting is ongoing, or so to speak, and we'd love to know who takes the early lead. Reports that had reached the newsroom before we started the show was that the lady, that is Madam Agnes Kavindu of Wiper Party, had taken the early lead, but we are yet to confirm whether that is still the same thing. And so, Joash, we are coming to you, and we'd love to hear from you. Tell us what is culminating down there.
Thank you very much, Linda Lela, from our studios in Nairobi. We are coming to you live from Machakos County, and we are at Machakos Academy, which is the county tallying center. And here we are just waiting for the result from the 8 constituencies, and these constituencies are from Masinga, Yata, Kangundo, Matungulu, Kathiani. We have Mavoko, we have Machakos Town, and Mwala. So these 8 constituencies have got their own polling stations, and once now the results have been tallied from these constituencies, they will be brought to this particular center where the final result will be announced, and also the verification of those results. And earlier on, we went to Machakos constituency, which has 213 polling stations, and so far it's a few polling stations which have remained in the process of the counting of the votes. And on the results that we had earlier there, Agnes Kavindu of Wiper was leading a few minutes ago, and she has 78% of the votes votes cast with 190 polling stations already being counted out of 213. She has 16,738 votes, followed by Ngengele Abanas Mutunga Muthama, who is running for with the UDA ticket, who has 3,266 votes with 15%. So those are the results from Machakos Town constituency. We are just waiting from other constituencies so that we can be able to know who is leading. These are just provisional results. We are just waiting for the final results. Once those results start trickling to this main tallying center here in Machakos, and we've not experienced any cases of violence, any cases of misconduct, but things are just smooth here. And what we're only waiting for is that final results, which will be announced by the county returning officer, Miss Wamalwa. So we'll be here keeping a close eye to this particular exercise so that we can be able to update our viewer on what is happening and who has come out to be the third senator of Machakos County. Back to you, Linda, in our studios.
Well, thank you so much, Joash, for the updates. I'm sure we're going to get more as the day unfolds. So make sure that you keep it TV47, the home of untold stories. If it is not me, then definitely my colleagues will keep you abreast of the same. Well, and to the next conversation, technically what it is that we've been discussing right from yesterday. We do not stop discussing this as we look at the reign of the fallen gallant Dr. Joseph John Pombe Magufuli. And yes, Professor Macharia Monene is here with us this morning so that we can decipher on the face of his reign what he would say at a professional perspective, at a perspective of an individual who's constantly followed up on the events of, nations and how they integrate, a person who's closely followed up on, leadership and the aspect of governance, especially when it comes to peaceful coexistence of these particular nations across the globe. And so he is well placed to give us a professional perspective in regards to these matters. Good to have you, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Karibu sana, and thank you so much for creating time. And straight to it, probably I'll allow you a chance to offer your condolences, which I know you already have. But then again, on a different platform, it is only fair that we do that. Even as we ask you of one key question, what do you make of what was the reign of Magufuli?
Well, thank you very much. To start with, yes, let me send my condolences to the people of Tanzania and to the family of John Pombe Magufuli for this sad happening. For the East African region,
right,
it's a sad occasion in the sense that it is the second time we are having a president die under these circumstances. We had Burundi president,
right,
and Nkurunziza die, which was not a good experience for the region, because despite some differences here and there, the region is one and operates as one. So when something happens in one area, the rest is affected negatively. So we feel for people of Tanzania, but we also know that they are strong, resilient people, and they will go through this in a positive way. And Tanzania will continue to be Tanzania for the foreseeable future. So the death of the president is a sad occasion anytime, irrespective of where. For the region, it's time to reassess. It's also time for each government to reflect on itself, on its own policies, to reflect on policies towards each other, and in the world politics, where does the region stand, or where does Tanzania go as a result of this unfortunate development?
His hard stance or rigid stance in regards to approach of issues is one thing that people have questioned. Some have celebrated, some have said, sometimes it's not good, especially when we're speaking about the aspect of integration. Tundu Lissu, an opposition leader, speaks of the death of Magufuli, with a different tone. Different in the sense that he says, well, during his reign, probably as a people of Tanzania, they've not been able to enjoy so much in terms of, ensuring that they get this integration that is needed across board with the neighbors, that the people of Tanzania have had their rights infringed upon, that probably Magufuli would have done better in terms of, realizing the aspect of development for the people of Tanzania in a free and fair way, in a ground that is friendly enough. And so he says that it is now time that again they reevaluate, but equally it is equally a chance for them to get to have a different phase of leadership that would be instrumental towards making the nation even better. Well, probably one would look at that as a person who celebrates the death of Magufuli. Do you suppose with the kind of intolerance and the kind of rigidness that he's approached the regional issues, then probably the other leaders across, while would not wish him death, would look at it as a reprieve towards, again, fighting towards the cause of integration?
Yeah. First, I would not go to the extent of saying that the critic, Tidi, is celebrating the death.
Okay.
That I would not.
That is misplaced anyway. But then again, he was here yesterday. He says that while, and I think a couple of tweets that he said, while he does not wish anyone death, he will write an obituary with,
reflecting his views.
Yeah.
But he is right to the extent that Tanzania now has an opportunity to reevaluate, reassess, and decide whether as a country it's going in the right direction.
Right.
But that is to be left to the incoming president for the next 4 years or so, because that's
it's just the beginning of a term.
It's just beginning of the term, and they just got re-elected.
Yeah.
So, but she's a different person with different perspective. And although she's a Magufuli person, that's why they were together. It's also true that she's a different person.
Okay.
And she has a different perspective, maybe a Zanzibari perspective, as to how the union should continue.
Okay.
And maybe how to bring Zanzibar into full participation in the union. There is a difference between Zanzibar and mainland.
Yes,
and people, it's always been a problem. So maybe her position now may be able to bring in Zanzibar to feel that it is fully part of the union. So this is a new opportunity. But as for Magufuli as a person, he has this personality problem, or he had. Very forceful, which is good in some instances, and they say bulldozing, because some things needed to be bulldozed and things like that. At the same time, appearing to be very dogmatic.
Right.
And in being dogmatic, he lost it in some instances.
All right.
One aspect that is well known globally was his position on coronavirus, which was contrary to the general perspective. And one of the few leaders who kind of downplayed the seriousness of this pandemic to the extent of urging people to ignore it. And very unfortunately, Nkurunziza had the same problem.
Yes.
And now we are getting conflicting information. What did he die of? And Nkurunziza supposedly died of coronavirus. And he said that he too might have died of the same thing, which is kind of not a very good feeling that there's somebody who denies the reality of something, then ends up being a victim of that reality. Now, as within the region, I think if you are to compare the leaders of Tanzania, he might come second to Julius Nyerere in terms of forcefulness.
Right.
In terms of knowing what he wants to do. I do not think that he had Nyerere's vision of the country.
Okay.
But in terms of being forceful, he was very...
Tanzanians, in a way, seemed to appreciate or like that, because then it was instrumental in dealing with the aspect of corruption, in dealing with leaders who were there to enrich themselves, in creating a fair share or space for the people who felt like they were marginalized, addressing the aspect of poverty, addressing the people who felt like they had no one to fight for them. And they celebrate him for reviving the economy. They speak of Air Tanzania, the ports that have been built under his watch, the roads and railways, and of course the way he lifted the country's income. I mean, in such a short while, probably 5 years only.
No, he's done well. And the image he has portrayed of himself as being forceful and trying to change the work ethic. So that's what was the main thing. The impression that Tanzanians tend to be laid back. And then he says, no, change this. If you're going to, the country is going to be rich.
You have to march up, yeah.
And be respected. You have to change the way you do things.
You're right.
Such that the productivity goes up. And to that extent, he gets credit. That, yes, you could see clearly there was an attempt to change the work, the culture, the attitude. And he was doing that, one would say, in competition with Kenya.
Okay.
Because in the whole region, it is Kenya that gets credit for pushing.
Yes.
For having shaded characters.
Yeah.
To
counter, yes.
If he was going to catch up with Kenya,
he would have had the task of incorporating the same.
He tend to run things.
Okay.
And he tried his best. It does not mean that he finished.
Yeah.
And they are there. And they are very crafty people.
Right.
And so his reputation is that he was able to deal with these people, tried to deal with them, in the process of advancing Tanzania's interest as he saw it. In the process of doing that, he became draconian, such that he was not listening. And that's why he's accused of violating the rights of people and not as much freedom in terms of the way Kenyans like to think of it. So Kenya is a very free country, despite its few problems here and there. And so in the region, in the Eastern African region, it is Kenya where people go to.
Right.
If they want to talk their own problems. You come to Nairobi, discuss your problems, and then you go back.
Yeah.
To do
to fix now, yes.
So there is that angle that may not reflect very well, not just on John Pombe Magufuli, but on many other leaders in the region. So he comes out as he made a mark for himself.
Okay.
That it cannot be ignored. John Pombe Magufuli was John Pombe Magufuli.
Indeed.
And the name Pombe itself was an attractive name.
You cannot run away from
that.
Just noting and acknowledging that
yes,
he is
it was in 2015 when he was campaigning. And of course campaigning against some other people like Lowassa. There were stories going around, especially among the underclass, that they just wanted Pombe Magufuli. Nobody else. Why they wanted him, they don't ask him. They just want him.
They just want him.
Because he had that attraction, personal attraction, especially to the people who feel as if they have been left out.
Okay.
And so they're giving the impression that he's lifting up people. And therefore they do not care what other people said.
Yes.
They just wanted Pombe Magufuli. And he got in, and he apparently became fairly popular in that regard.
Yeah. Yes. All right. You speak of the aspect of the region and East Africa, but equally, he comes in at a time, or he pushes this agenda of, that gets us a bit confused as to whether Tanzania is under SADC or Tanzania is under East Africa. And if it is not under SADC, then we fail to understand why he tries so much to push the country to align with that side. Is it because there's so much on the Southern African side of Africa in comparison to what the East African side has to offer?
Well, we have an ideological challenge here. And it is not a Pombe Magufuli challenge.
Okay.
He inherited it.
Right.
These are some problems to be found in Tanzania as a whole. And it goes back to the liberation days of Southern Africa. and Tanzania played a pivotal role. It was critical in that regard. And so the countries of Southern Africa tended to look up to Tanzania. When you come to the rest of Africa, to Eastern Africa, they tended to look up to Tanzania as the center of liberation.
Okay.
And that was the great credit. That in itself also got into the Tanzanians themselves, because they became so closely attached to it that they tended to neglect the Eastern African side of it. And so when SADC stopped just being an organization for liberation and now it became an organization for cooperation and other matters, and so Tanzania said, "Oh, you are part of us."
Okay.
And Tanzania showed that we are part of it, we helped you in that regard, to the detriment of the East African community. Now, that's one thing. So the governments of Tanzania have been torn between whether to be more Southern Africa or more Eastern Africa.
Okay.
That has been, and he just made it bigger because of his forcefulness.
All right.
So people can notice it. We also have some other aspect to consider. The historical record between particularly Kenya and Tanzania, and Tanganyika before, now Tanzania, has not been the most cordial.
Yes.
For ideological reasons, personality reasons, and work ethic, different. And also the fact that Tanzania has had kind of double colonialism, one would say.
All right.
They were colonized by the Germans, and so there is a lot of German things, particularly in the mainland Tanganyika, and that's where you find a lot of Lutheran, because the Lutherans are Germans, and Tanganyika was colonized by the Germans, so you have a lot of those Lutherans following that trend. There is also this deep feeling the Germans and the British don't like each other too much, so maybe it might have been reflected in the whole thing. So when Germany was defeated in the Great War, and then its colony was taken over by the British.
All right.
That's how they ended up, all of them, they ended up being under British control.
Yes.
But that German connection did not disappear.
Was still there, yeah.
As far as Kenya is concerned, colonialism was basically British.
Right, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. So different factors influenced the makeup of the two countries. And even in the colonial days, there was always concern in Tanganyika, not on Uganda, but mainly Tanganyika, on whether Kenya would dominate the rest. And they feared that domination. They still do.
They do.
Because at that time it was fear of the whites, the settler dominance.
Right.
And of course there were movements to try and create one bigger region. That's why we have a very big state house in Nairobi compared to the other.
That would have been the...
Yeah, because the aim was to create a governor general based in Nairobi.
All right.
And then the others, just you compare the state house in Dar and the one in Entebbe, they are not as big. And that's the reason for that. So that fear was there. But although the fear was there, they still tried to do something in common. Not to ignore the concern, but can we do something that... And that's why we had the East African common services that used to be there, like the East African Railway and Harbour, Airways, and there was that effort. Cooperate on what you can and downplay the political that can be real damage. The implementation of that has been problematic. And that's why, like, remember when Idi Amin was president? And then Idi Amin and Nyerere could not sit together.
Right.
So the community could not function properly.
And so
there are a lot of things that continue. Now what Magufuli did is to come and exemplify these things in such a big way that including arresting chicken and cows, which said, what's wrong with this man?
Yeah. and reports are that very many Kenyans this phase and during his phase or his term have not been able to acquire work permit. And most of them have had to come back home, a renewal of the same, begging the question, just why would he be so bitter? Is it because he believes so much in the Tanzanian people, and he knows that, well, what Kenyans can do, which they look at us as more of superpowers, then his people can be empowered to do that?
Well, I think he was short-sighted.
Okay.
As much as he wanted to. It's like Donald Trump, who was saying America first, meaning
Yes,
that knock everybody out. And you know, see also Donald Trump denied about cabin.
It's true, yeah.
The same way. So
we had a lot of problems with the
common.
migrants and all that.
You know, they're being anti-foreign or whatever it is. But because of that inherent fear in the colonial time, that Tanzanians' fear of Kenyans was increased, appeared to be increased, as Pombe Magufuli was trying to be assertive, not just in Tanzania, but also in the region.
Okay.
He would have wanted to be the leader of the region when compared to, let's say, Museveni, Kagame, Uhuru. He'd want to be. But he somehow was not making it. I think the one person he managed to pull on his side was the Burundi man.
Oh, well,
you know, otherwise,
the rest were a bit
the rest were a bit hesitant.
Yeah.
There has been that competition between Kenya and Tanzania, especially the infrastructure thing.
Okay.
You know, the SGR, the LAPSET and all those things, and which are supposed to open the inner countries. And in Nairobi, Kenya was always the route.
Yeah.
So there was that attempt to move that from this.
Okay.
And you can see okay, the question that has come up often is why Kenya tolerates it.
Yes, we're being too lenient, they say.
Yeah, I mean,
with Somalia, too lenient.
It makes sense to be bigger. And you don't want to quarrel over small issues all the time.
Okay.
The ultimate benefit for the region is high. And I think that's the mind frame of the Kenyan policymakers. Yes, you are agitated, but that is not enough to go the whole hog and say to hell with it. Because you are neighbors anyway. It's like Kenya and Somalia, we are neighbors. They have a habit of provoking Kenyans.
We are the bigger brother, so they say.
The bigger brother, so you tolerate
some of these things. Dr. Thank you so much, but we do not go without addressing this in a minute or so. Magufuli is one leader that has been seen not to or never to enslave himself into the whims of the Western world. And, you know, other countries, technically, what we're talking about, of course, Kenya and other countries. What is this like in terms of, you know, getting ourselves liberated from our colonizers? Because, well, neocolonialism is getting into Africa quickly. And we probably would want to have leaders, Magufuli, Robert Mugabe, who would strongly say, you know what, we're not going to subscribe to that. I'm sorry.
No, it's necessary that the leaders we elect or we have be clear as to what the interests of the African peoples are. And each country's interests to be promoted. And to know that they operate in an international field that is not necessarily favorable to the Africans. In fact, it is not.
It's not.
Right now, there is a global realignment taking place in terms of power play.
Okay.
And the issue is for each country to see where it fits into that realignment. The way things were 15 years ago is not the same. And the coronavirus has made it even worse. And so it's for each country to have a clear view of what its interests are, its vision, and then the leadership to be able to deal with that.